The thing in the wall. I've never told anyone this story. Not because I didn't want to, but because every time I think about it, I get this feeling like something's still watching, waiting. It happened back in 2018 when I was renting a cheap basement apartment in a small town outside of Pittsburgh. It was the kind of place that looked normal during the day, but as soon as the sun dipped below the trees, the air turned thick, heavy. Like the darkness there was a little too old. The apartment was weird from the start. Nothing dramatic, just off. It always felt slightly colder than it should. I'd wake up to find my silverware drawer open, or a light on I swore I turned off. Harmless stuff, the kind of things you blame on being tired, forgetful, stressed, and I was all of those things. But then came the knocking. It started one night around 2:13 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I had just turned over in bed to check my phone. That's when I heard it. 3 slow knocks. Not from the door, not the windows, from inside the wall. I froze, not sure if I imagined it. The knocks were heavy and deliberate, like knuckles on plaster. I waited, heart pounding. Nothing. The next night it happened again. Same time, same 3 knocks. I even pressed my ear to the wall afterward, trying to catch something. Breathing, scratching, a sound to make sense of it. But there was nothing. I started recording at night, just on my phone. The knocks didn't always come, but when they did, it was always at 2:13 a.m. The exact same rhythm. I told my landlord. She brushed it off, said maybe it was pipes, or an animal in the walls. No big deal, she said. These old houses make all kinds of noises. But I could feel it wasn't that. Then, one night, everything changed. I woke up again at 2:13 a.m. But this time, no knocks. Instead, I heard whispers, low, raspy, indistinct, like someone murmuring just beyond the wall. My mouth went dry as I slowly sat up in bed, straining to hear. That's when I realized something even more horrifying. The whispers weren't behind the wall. They were inside my room. I reached for my lamp, but it wouldn't turn on. The bulb was dead. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and swept it across the room. Empty. But the whispering continued, now just to the left of me. I turned, and there was this shape, like a tall shadow standing in the corner. Too long, too thin. Its limbs seemed to stretch unnaturally, like the space itself was cut out of reality. I blinked, and it was gone. The next morning I found scratches along the wall next to my bed. Deep, ragged lines that hadn't been there before, like something had been clawing its way out. I moved out that same day. A few months later, I got curious and looked up the property. Turns out a man had died there, alone, trapped in the very same basement during a fire that gutted the upper floors in the late 90s. They said he pounded on the walls, trying to escape, but no one heard him. He burned alive inside the plaster and wood. He died at 2:13 a.m. Sometimes I wonder if what I heard was just an echo of his last moments. But deep down, I know it wasn't. Because even now, sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear those knocks. 3 slow, deliberate knocks coming from the walls, and always at 2:13 a.m. The reflection. People always say mirrors don't lie. I'm here to tell you, they do. And sometimes they don't reflect what's real. They show what's waiting. This happened last year, when I moved into my first apartment alone. It wasn't anything special. Just a tiny studio above a bakery downtown. Old building, creaky floors, thin walls. But I liked it. It was quiet, cheap, and most of all, mine. There was one weird thing, though. A tall, antique mirror bolted to the wall in the hallway. The landlord said it was original to the building and couldn't be removed. I didn't think much of it at the time. Just a creepy, old mirror with cracks in the corner and a faint silver stain running down the middle. The first time I noticed something wrong, it was subtle. I walked past the mirror one night and saw myself, but not quite. My reflection blinked just a half second too late. I froze, staring at it, then laughed it off. I was tired, sleep deprived. Maybe the mirror was just warped. All glass can do that, right? But then it happened again, and again. Sometimes my reflection would smile when I wasn't smiling, or stand still when I moved. Once I waved. It didn't. I started to avoid it, covered it with a sheet. But even then, I could feel it, like something behind the glass was watching, waiting. Then things got worse. One night around 3 a.m., I heard whispering, faint, but clear, like someone was mumbling just outside my bedroom door. I got up, heart pounding, and looked down the hall. The sheet had fallen off the mirror, and in it, I saw myself, standing there. But I wasn't moving. I took a step forward. The reflection didn't follow. Instead, it tilted its head and smiled, a wide, stretched grin that showed too many teeth. I ran, left the apartment that night, and crashed at a friend's place. When I came back the next day, the mirror was completely shattered, glass everywhere. But here's the thing. None of the glass was outside the frame. It had broken inward, like something came through. I demanded the landlord take it out. They said they already had someone coming to seal that part of the wall, and told me not to go near it. I didn't need to be told twice. I moved out 2 weeks later. A month after that, I got curious, looked up the building's history. In the 1950s, a woman had gone missing in that same apartment. No signs of a struggle. The only clue was her mirror, smeared with handprints on the inside of the glass. The story gave me chills, and now sometimes when I look in a mirror, any mirror, I'll catch a flicker of that smile again, just for a second. And I wonder, did I ever really leave that apartment, or did something follow me out? Voices in the vents. When I first moved into my cousin's old house, I thought I'd lucked out. She had left for grad school abroad and offered me the place rent-free. All I had to do was house sit and keep the plants alive. It was an older 2-story home in the suburbs, with creaky wood floors, dusty corners, and a long hallway that always felt colder than the rest of the house. But it was peaceful, quiet, at least for the first few nights. Then I started hearing the voices. It started small, barely noticeable. I'd be lying in bed and hear what sounded like whispering coming from the floor vent. At first I figured it was the wind, or maybe something outside. I'd turn over, block it out, and go back to sleep. But the voices got clearer. They didn't sound like they were coming from outside. They sounded like they were traveling through the vents, echoing from somewhere deep inside the house. At first it was one voice, then two, then more. Sometimes they whispered in broken sentences. Other times, they'd repeat the same thing over and over. Don't look in the dark. He's in the walls. If you hear breathing, don't breathe back. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding. I started sleeping with white noise, then earbuds, then music blasting in my headphones. But no matter what I did, the voices found a way through. One night around 3:30 a.m., I got fed up. I crawled out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and opened one of the vents in the hallway, just to prove to myself that it was nothing. But when I looked inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A handprint, small, almost child-sized, pressed against the inside of the vent, smudged, as if someone had been trying to claw their way out. And just below it, scratch marks, long, deep, and frantic. I slammed it shut, spent the rest of the night with every light in the house on. The next day, I called my cousin. I tried to play it cool, asked if she'd ever heard weird noises. She got real quiet. Then she said, You're hearing them too? She told me she started hearing whispers her last year living there. Same voices, same phrases. She thought she was going crazy. Went to therapy. Got tests done. Nothing helped. That's why she left so suddenly. But it's not just in your head, she said. Whatever's in that house, it feeds off of attention. The more you listen, the more real it gets. Then she told me the worst part. It watches through the vents. I hung up, paced for hours, tried to calm down. That night, I blocked every vent in the house with duct tape and cardboard. Every single one. But around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to the sound of breathing. Not whispering. Heavy, raspy breathing. I froze. It wasn't coming from the vent anymore. It was coming from under my bed. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. Then the breathing stopped, and a voice right next to my ear whispered, "You sealed the vents, but I'm already in." I ran. I didn't pack. I didn't turn off the lights. I just left the house and drove until sunrise. I haven't been back, but sometimes, late at night in my new apartment, I still hear whispering in the vents. Only now it knows my name.